recently I was watching some really, I think they're Thai commercials or something, and in Thailand there seems to be this non-governmental organization that puts out these really great commercials. I don't know if you've seen any of them, but they're like, this person helps, and actually there's been one in Taiwan as well. I think a few countries are doing them. Somebody helps somebody, and much later in their life they get helped by that same person. And it wasn't just that video. I've been watching, I watched too many videos. But I had this idea, I need to start paying it forward more often. I usually try. I usually try to help people when I see that they need something. Or, if I see a problem, even if that problem doesn't involve me, I think I should take some responsibility to help out. Like today, just coming out of the MRT, actually it was all the way back at the MRT station where I live. And there was a line of women out of the bathroom, I don't know how many women were in the bathroom waiting, but there were at least 5 women out of the bathroom. I was thinking, gosh, I have a few minutes until my train comes. I should go make a complaint. You need to add more female bathrooms. Even though it doesn't affect me, I just felt like I should do something to help. And so, anyway, I've always had this idea that if I see somebody who needs help, I should help them. But there are times when maybe I'm in a hurry. Maybe I don't feel like I have enough time. If I stop now, well, okay. If I saw somebody that was like really needed help, of course I'm going to stop. If I just see somebody who's run out of gas and pushing their scooter, there's a 50-50 chance that I'm going to stop. I might not stop. I've run out of gas. Actually, I've run out of gas and there has been somebody who stopped. But I've run out of gas other times and nobody stopped to help me. And that's okay, because you can push the scooter yourself, you get to the gas station, you fill it up, it takes up some of your night, but it's not the end of the world. So recently, last Thursday, I was driving to work and I saw a guy on a bridge who had run out of gas, and I felt bad, but I sort of immediately weighed this, like, should I stop? But if I stop, how am I going to help him? Or I'll have to go to the gas station and bring gas back for him. But it would just be kind of complicated, and he would probably refuse it anyway. So I didn't stop. I thought he can deal with it himself. But I think that is interesting. After watching this video, it's interesting that they have studied this and say if you're all alone and you're the only person who can help, you're more likely to help. Whether when it's in a much larger group situation, like part of my thinking was there might be somebody behind me that will help. Somebody behind me will have more time. They will have seen the guy before I did, because I was just thinking this guy's going really slow with his lights out. So I was already past him by the time I thought maybe I should stop. And I'm going really fast. So I'd have to stop, get off, go back. Well, it would, obviously now that I think about it, it wouldn't have been that terrible of a thing. I probably should have helped him. It would have made me feel like a better person. But in the end, I didn't. And it's interesting to see kind of why I didn't. Would anyone else like to talk about the video that we just watched?
Clearly there's levels of altruism, isn't it? Because if that guy being off his bike sprawled on the road, then you wouldn't help, regardless of how much hassle it would have been for you. So clearly there's levels of our desire to want to help. And
right.
How much it will affect us.
Right. So what was my thinking? But I'm coming at it like I want to pay it forward. Not that I necessarily think that this guy's going to help me sometime in the future, but he might help somebody else. Because I have been helped in those situations before.
Yeah. In Taiwan, there's a lot of that at times. People are very open to be very helpful here. I don't know, are people receptive to getting help though here? I don't know if it's a language barrier or they just really don't want help when I'm in this situation.
Well, there is a little bit of first refusing help, but I'm not sure if that's so different in other countries. What about in England? What's the first response when somebody offers you help?
It depends what it was, but most people would refuse it because I'd say it's far too polite, but not all polite. But no, depending on the situation, you would accept help if you felt you needed it.
Okay, well let's take this. Okay, go ahead.
Maybe I could get some opinions. I think for the social, they talk about the social responsibility and then also social exchange. And I was wondering if we could maybe contextualize it and talk about the Hong Kong umbrella movement. And what do you guys think about that? Is that social responsibility, or is that social exchange, or some people call it rational choice? Or is it altruism? Is it aggression? Because we see all of those aspects. I was thinking if you guys thought about that.
Sorry, which one? I didn't
The Hong Kong kind of protest about the voting situation in 2017. Or even like family relations. Like, do kids utilize social exchange or social responsibility when interacting with family members?
Well, maybe we should stick to one thing.
Okay.
I've always helped animals if I see them in pain or suffering. I can't help it. I mean, if I realize there's nothing I can do to rescue yet another kitten, I have to run just to keep myself from rescuing it. So I haven't. I mean, this is the way I've been since I was little. Though I don't know whether that's altruism. It's just a example. Have to rescue animals for animals. They're not able to help themselves. A person, if they're bleeding or something on the side of the road, I wouldn't be able to walk by them either. But I mean, if someone's just pushing a scooter, usually I don't process them as having a problem, so I try to just go on. And I don't ride a scooter, so I wouldn't think, oh, they're out of gas. I wouldn't even process them at all. They're just another person on the road while I'm cycling past. So you have to first process something as a really big problem before you can think, oh, I gotta help them. And most people really don't have life-threatening problems, pushing a scooter. Now, if it was Canada and you're, it's the middle of winter in the middle of the prairies and there's someone who's out of gas, they're in big trouble. They might die. So it's a social responsibility to pick them up. You can't drive past someone who's run out of gas in Canada. They will die.
That was my situation a year ago. I was driving over the Central Cross Island Highway and I ran out of gas, past Taroko Gorge. And I was actually just 5 kilometers or less from a gas station, but they were just about to close, and luckily this guy stopped and went and got gas for me. He was like my angel, and then he drove with me all the way over the rest of the Cross Island Highway to Cooley, or near Cooley. But well, let's talk about Hong Kong, because I do want to bring this discussion of aggression versus altruism into a larger scale, a more global or country or governmental or societal or cultural scale. Well, most of the news reports out of Hong Kong have been in Cantonese, so I can understand them. I'm actually having a really hard time getting good, solid English news out of Hong Kong. But my first thought about it is that yes, it is a social responsibility. These people absolutely have a responsibility, whether other people think they're stupid or naive. I think that they do have a social responsibility. I mean, the whole idea is that they should have the vote for themselves. So I think it is their social responsibility.
Can you give a brief rundown of what is going on in Hong Kong, just so in case people...
Okay, so England controlled Hong Kong for 100 years, and when England gave Hong Kong back to China, China said in 2016, is that right? 2017? 2017. They said in 2017, China said in 2017 we promised to have open, or let the people of Hong Kong have open elections. But within the last year or something like that, or year or two, they have said well, actually, we'll let you have elections, but the people that you can vote for have to be chosen by the Communist Party in Beijing. And I think that's what the issue is. The people who are protesting don't want to have more influence from China because they already have a lot of influence from China.
Yeah.
So what do other people think? What do you think yourself?
Well, I'm not sure. That's why I'm asking the question. I think, like you said, there is possibility of exchange and responsibility. If you're looking at exchange, what's the positive outcome or the kind of the capital that they could get from having their own president, if you say. But if it's responsibility, then really what they're saying is, well, in the future, whether it's our generation or a future generation, they may have a democratic choice in the leadership. And I wonder if the aggression part, whether it was nonviolent to begin with, and now it's becoming more and more violent, if that's kind of coincides with the frustration side, as well as that they're becoming frustrated, they can't really do anything. So rather than continuing with the nonviolent protests, they're moving towards a more aggressive situation.
I think I remember talking about this at work, actually. I think I don't get all the news, so I don't have all the facts. But I remember we were just saying they basically lied. When they said, okay, you will have your own election, and then they said, but you have to choose from this or these baddies, then that's basically lying to people, not giving them what they want. But I think, my personal opinion is that if you have a group of people, whether they lied or not, if you have a group of people who believe they've been lied to and betrayed, there is going to be aggression, period. Simple as that. That's just, I think it's going to be the outcome. There's going to be anger and aggression because they feel like they've been betrayed and they feel like they've been lied to.
I think there's an interesting idea of at what point is violence a social responsibility? At what point should they just take up arms and fight?
Well, yeah.
Obviously, I don't think that's a good option for them. But
It's not. According to the video, they're saying it's frustration. And if we transpose it to America and other protests there, whether you call it finding or looting or riots or demonstration, depending on the word you use, people have different ideas of what is happening. But generally, when we see something so violent or any kind of violence where people get hurt, regardless if it's a one-on-one basis or societal or national, there's probably some kind of triggering event, and what you're saying is people already have some kind of problem, and then something triggers it. I was just wondering if that's what you guys think about. Is that kind of the nature and nurture debate which we talked about also, or is it resources?
I don't think it's nature nurture. I don't think it's about resources. I think it's about flat out betrayal of well, I guess you could say resource being the island being the resource. Their own government they want.
We're going to look back in history as well, look at Tiananmen and what happened there. They're going to be ready. I don't think it's going to be resolved by talking about it. They know the government's too stubborn for that. Didn't work on Tiananmen Square, so they're probably ready for the. I'm not saying it's right, but they're probably ready for the physical fight because they know it's the only way it's going to change.
Yeah, what are their options? Otherwise, they get rolled over and taken advantage of. I mean, what are the other options? There might be other options. I don't know what they are.
Well, it seems like I actually don't know of the violence caused by the protesters in Hong Kong. That news is not getting to me. But I have seen a lot of violence from the police officers in Hong Kong. Not necessarily as obvious as violence like say in Tiananmen or other countries that have uprisings. But there definitely seems to be some frustration on the side of the police officers. And I wonder if it is just simply frustration or they're actually being given orders to be more violent, right? Or not necessarily you need to be more violent, but hey, if you are, well, that's okay. We're not going to come down on you if you are. I mean, it's tough because Hong Kong does, I think, have a very strong judicial system. And when there was a video of a protester being beaten by 3 or 6 police officers, they were put up on charges. But it definitely seems like there's a bit of frustration. I mean, I've seen videos of, the police officers just hitting seemingly random people with their batons in the sides and in the legs, and
isn't it a case sometimes in those situations where the police themselves are fearful for their own lives? It's not right, but they're just people at the end of the day, and they're in their group, and they're facing another group which have conflicting ideas. Well, they're actually giving orders to. They may not agree with you what protesters vote. They may not agree with their own government. They're terrified. I'm not saying they should lash out, but there's definitely certain instances of that in the riots that we had in London, the anti-capitalist riots. The press picked up on certain individuals rioting, but there was only a few that were rioting compared to the rest of the crowd. And then the police beat one up, and then it's this huge news. So you've got to take this in caution, really.
Well, that, and I think we might be getting a little bit away from aggression versus altruism, I'm not sure, but I mean, from my perspective, it seems like when you have these massive protests, whether it's in the United States over non-indictments in the deaths of some people or other police brutality, it seems like when the cops get called out in force like this with their riot gear, with the cops are no longer there to protect the people, the cops then are there to protect the system that is in place. They become like sort of the strong arm of the government, right? Like, so the government says, well, and it's almost like, I don't know if I'm making the jump too quickly, but it's almost like they're the strong arm of business, actually, because it's really business and economy and commerce that wants to keep going, right? It's like all of the small businesses and the restaurants, they're all still open. The only thing that these protests are really hurting are, the big banks and stuff like that can't do their. I mean, there's like one of the main bus companies in Hong Kong is saying, you need to get these protesters out of here because we can't run our buses down the street. I don't know if that company is going under or what, but I imagine that company is owned by somebody who owns multiple companies, so it's not that big of a deal, but they want to make their money.
Considering there's no opposition out there, if you took the police away, what do you think the situation would be?
If you took the police away, I think that
they're there to protect, they're there to sort of monitor, but there's no side A and B, it's just side A. So B doesn't exist.
Right.
So
I think if the police weren't there, the protesters would try to take over all the government buildings. I mean, so in that way, you're right. They're there, not just protecting business interests, but they're there protecting the, interests of the government, being some cohesive structure. Do we want to continue to talk about this, or do we want to move on?
I didn't say much.
No, you didn't.
I didn't say anything.
No, you didn't. Maybe we can talk about family for a little while. And you were talking about children and. Sorry, can you repeat that one more time? What you said about family?
I'm not unclear myself. That's why I asked the question. Is this idea of taking care of your parents or taking care of your children? Is that an exchange idea? Or is it a responsibility? Because when you spoke about social responsibility, and I think about how Asian and Taiwanese families operate, is that it seems like it's very confusion with social responsibility. It's your time, it's your duty to do that. Whereas if it's social exchange, if you see it from an individualistic point of view, from a parent perspective, you say, well, I'm going to take care of my child, so they'll take care of me when I'm older. And from a child's perspective, I'm going to take care of my older folks, and maybe when they pass, I'll get a larger sum of reward. So is it kind of that exchange idea, or is it really a choice that we make based on?
What is it then?
Depends on the culture.
When we're talking about
It would
Confucian
be-
society, I think
that's
that's
culture.
more like imposed.
Is that unconditional
I
love?
think that's like a religion.
Well, yeah. See, now you're talking about the structure, and now you're saying unconditional love. So I'm just curious to know what you guys think. Right?
I think
Those
it's
are-
culture. Because in my culture, I don't think that. I just don't, I think maybe here, but in my culture. I mean, I don't think that people get raised in Canada thinking we're going to look after our parents. That just doesn't exist. And I don't think that I don't think of my parents as, oh, they're going to die, so I want a good inheritance. I mean, I want to go back and take care of them because I haven't spent enough time with them, period. And I think that's more valuable than gold. And I don't think that has anything to do with me wanting a good inheritance. I don't think that occurs to us in Canada. Now, maybe in Taiwan, you have this kind of thinking. I don't know, because I don't understand the other cultures. But I certainly think it's non-existent for the most part in Canada. This kind of thinking is not there.
I think in a country that teaches its citizens that that's something that they need to do, then yeah, it seems like a social responsibility thing. When Lynn says it's non-existent, I think it's more up to the individual. And I think there probably are individuals, and maybe I'm just making this up because I've seen movies about it or TV shows about it, but that definitely seems to be something that they care about. What kind of inheritance am I going to get? If I ignore my father or mother, I'll probably get nothing. If I lavish attention on them, I might get more. I'm not saying that's the only motivation. There could be a dozen motivations, but it seems like because there is no cultural teachings as far as that goes. I mean, the only thing that is really taught when we're little is like, I don't know, maybe respect our elders, and I guess that's as far as it goes, and then that translates into they should at least have a roof over their head.
Yeah.
Whether they get treated very well just comes down to how much money the family can spend, or if the family is still even talking to each other. Would anyone else like to add anything?
Yeah. I don't know if this translates to people, but I just, like, when I rescue a cat, like, I rescued a cat that was just born with this umbilical cord, and I raised her. And that meant every 2 hours I had to get up and feed this kitten, or it would die. And I think that's just a totally instinct. The kitten's not offering anything, but I'm going to save it. And I think that that's kind of like just a nurturing part of women. I don't know whether men, I can't speak for men, but I think women, a lot of them just naturally have this in them to do. And I think it might be something that comes from our genetics. It just takes over. I must rescue this kitten or it'll die. It has just me. And then, and now it's a precious cat. So, I don't think that there's anything but altruism. I remember thinking it had a fever, this little kitten, and it was going to die, and I remember thinking, I'll give 2 years of my life, if you let this kitten live, please God. You know what I mean? And so she lives, and she's my cat now, and she runs towards the door when I come home, but I didn't think of a reward later. I just had to, And there is a reward because I can't wait to get home and see my cat. But it's not like, I don't think I ever thought of it that way, as in I must get a reward.
You couldn't, because you could have died.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
I don't know how many people would walk past the dying cat and not. I would save it there and there,
Yeah.
but then I would offload it quickly.
Well,
Because I don't have that. I don't want a cat, but I would. The altruism would be just to save it to life quickly.
and then get
And
it
then
to
pass
someone
it to
else.
someone else. Yeah.
Call the nets.
I will, but great number, yeah. But you said you've taken it to a completely another level, and you
Well,
benefited from that, but you didn't know that was going to happen. So it might not actually.
My cat may not
It
like
might,
me.
yeah.
Oh no, it's thought I was mom right from birth. I think that it like no matter what, unless I was abusive, and it still probably like me, unfortunately.
I wanna move on and watch this next video.